Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. Welcome from across this gorgeous planet. We are one church, many paths, one mountain, where our mission is what Barbara Marx Hubbard and Dr. Mark Goffney call the planetary awakening in love through a unique self-symphony. Together, we declare that the last day of the old face of evolution is honored as the first day of the new face of creation. I am Christina Amelong, the co-executive producer of One Church, along with Kirsten Zohar, and I am so delighted to be here with each and every one of you today. I welcome all the new people. Please do share that you are new in the chat box. We want to hear from you. When you do chat to everyone by checking that your chat settings say all panelists and attendees and not just all panelists. Use the chat function to say hi, to let us know where you're from, and to resonate the Dharma and to put your prayers in and all sorts of things. In One Church, we are connected, we are whole, and we're expressions of the entire process of creation. We are activating a new humanity, and we are awakening as a new species. Homo amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. We are a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, a zendo. We're all of it. No one is excluded. Everyone is included. And we come together to attune to the evolutionary impulse awakening in us. Welcome home, everyone. We're so delighted to be here with you today in week 183 of One Church. Let everyone know about One Church. We're doing this primarily through word of mouth. Barbara talked about each of us having a family of 10, and let us know if we can support you growing that family of 10. Leadership around church is such a sacred opportunity. And here's an opportunity for you. It's a hard time. It's a painful time. And 2 weeks ago, Dr. Mark Goffney did a big sense-making video clip called Spiritual Sense-Making in Times of Crisis. We'll share it in the chat, and please copy that and paste that and share that with your communities. On YouTube, we are One Church, many paths, one mountain. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/onechurch.world. After church, we will send you an email to invite your friends and family and forward that email right after church, okay? Spend time on our new community website, www.onechurch.world. On the top menu of the home page or the bottom of each page, you'll find our membership link, and it's such an honor to be a member here. With that, I give you a little bit of what to expect over this next hour. We begin with the Dharma recap, and then today we have a very special church for you, so hang on to your seats. And to close, we bring everyone onto Zoom for our goodbyes. The entire Dharma recap is a string of beautiful citations that Dr. Mark and Barbara shared last week, and I bring those words here as a recapitulation. Every week for several years, Mark wrote what he called evolutionary love codes. Mark and Barbara studied those codes together, often comparing them to Barbara's 52 codes for conscious self-evolution. These codes grew out of their radical commitment over 100 collective years, crystallizing the new story of humanity, quote, evolving the course of consciousness and culture, which is the source code of love, unquote. Each church is a standalone, and every week's church builds on the week before. One church, many paths, one mountain is radically committed to telling the new story. So here goes the Dharma recap from last week. Between dystopia and homo amor, one breath, restoring reality. We have this great destabilization, this great dystopia, this every person for themselves reality world. That is a tragic vision, a tragic story, but we can change this trajectory, this story. We change this trajectory not by getting through the moment of this pandemic and then going back to business as usual. There's going to be a gradual destabilization in a series of steps. That's hard to breathe in, but it's true. It's also true we have the full capacity to change it by bringing together the best information of the sciences, interior and exterior, to tell us who we are. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're here to do. We're actually here to birth the next stage of Homo sapiens, which is Homo amor. We need to live in a world which is now moving in the opposite direction of natural selection, in which the most vulnerable among us are protected, in which the reality and truth of the intimate universe is a given. We need to restore reality. We need to reconstruct a new Dharma. We need to reconstruct a new universe story, a new story of identity, a new story of existence. We need to recreate a new intimacy around the world. Who are we? What's the nature of our relationships to each other? What's the nature of our desire, and how do we clarify our desire? What is the nature of our power? And what's a story that's equal to our power? Homo amor lives in an intimate universe. And Homo amor has a unique gift to give. And Homo amor has a unique gift to give even if we are not at our job. Homo amor has a unique way of being, even in solitary confinement. Homo amor is not dependent on status and doesn't split off the wet markets and allow for that kind of cruelty to animals. Homo amor doesn't split off all of the indigenous and poor populations in the world because we've split them off out of our consciousness. Homo amor doesn't allow for a fragile system which is geared and optimized for efficiency and profit and not for life. Homo amor goes inside and eavesdrops on divinity alive in us. Homo amor is coming to understand that we are all evolution, and that evolution lives in us, and that evolution breathes through us, and that the mysteries are in us. We are literally revolutionaries with the full capacities of creativity, depth, and love living in us. Step into the intimate universe, become Homo amor, change the trajectory of reality. With that, I invite us to more deeply enter into the holy and sacred space of one church. And I turn my word to you, beloved Dr. Mark.
Welcome. Here we are, right? Are we ready? Wow, this is the 5th week. And thank you for that beautiful Dharma recap and for your presence and radiance, right? And what a delight. And what a horror, and what a beauty, and what a terror. This is a big week. It's a wildly important week. We're going to be celebrating my beloved evolutionary partner, our beloved friend, Barbara Marx Hubbard. We'll be talking about Barbara. And Barbara, you're with us. You promised to be with us today, and you are with us 1,000,000,000%. And we're going to hear from Barbara today directly. We haven't heard from her during the pandemic because, of course, she's in the continuity of consciousness in the next world. But today she's going to relate directly and be with us, and she'll be with us in future weeks. And we're going to play a special video about Barbara, and I'm going to talk, and we're going to all share. And so we're going to madly, madly, madly honor Barbara this week. Barbara, you're with us 1,000,000,000, quadrillion %. And just like we don't miss a child's birthday party, just like we don't miss an anniversary, we don't love less during a pandemic, we love more. So we wouldn't, for 1,000,000,000 reasons, miss this chance in the 1-year anniversary of Barbara's passing, right? To honor and love Barbara madly beyond imagination. I want to, before we turn to Barbara and we go into the order this week, I want to just give you a sense of where we are. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And enormous changes are afoot in the world. We stand, as Barbara and I so often said, literally, but now all of a sudden becomes obvious. Right? Often we would say it and people would kind of look at us with glazed eyes, but now it's obvious. Right? We stand poised between utopia and dystopia. We have the capacity to create a world of unspeakable tenderness, of unspeakable joy, of unspeakable desire, of unspeakable goodness, truth, and beauty. We have the capacity to create a world of more value. Right? The universe generates value, said Alfred North Whitehead. We have the capacity to generate a universe of more value than at any other time previously in history. And yet, we stand, as we'll talk about more today, we'll talk about both sides. We stand also poised before dystopia. And the bottom is deep, you can't quite see it, and you don't want to see it. And there's a series of cascading events that can emerge from this breakthrough of catastrophic risk, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, which will actually catapult reality into a place of unimaginable darkness. And it's not a conspiracy theory scenario. It's actually the logical progression of events. And what will cause that is the thinking that we can just get back to business as usual. No one gets to get back to business as usual. That's the big mistake. You feel the yearning to return to normal. That's a good yearning, and the routines of our lives are gorgeous. We've got to return to a deeper normal, right? It's not normal that 10 million children die of malnutrition every year. That's not normal. That's insane, right? So we want to get back to normal, but actually our normalcy was insane. See, the essence of enlightenment is sanity, right? Enlightenment is sanity. And enlightenment means that no one's left out of the circle, because that's actually the truth of reality. We're going to talk about that more in a few minutes. So enlightenment is sanity, right? Normal consciousness is insane. Does everyone get that? Right? Normal consciousness is insane. Normal consciousness produces what Buddhism calls dukkha, right? Intense suffering. There's a beautiful movie in the 60s, which I used to watch time and time again. right? When I was 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years old. It just spoke to me. And it was called The King of Hearts. And it was, who remembers it? Does anyone remember it? In the chat box, we can date ourselves if anyone remembers it. Who knows? Let's see if anyone remembers in the chat box, right? The King of Hearts. It was called The King of Hearts, right? Right. So the King of Hearts was about this one man who seemed to be the crazy man. He was insane, and everyone else was in the normal business of going to war, and he was insane. And of course, the point is, who's insane? So let's understand. We actually need to stand for a sanity like no other. And One Church, Many Paths, One Mountain is about telling the new story, and it's about not pandering to the mainstream, not arguing and competing for likes on social media, right? We're about actually creating on the periphery such a strong, resonant consciousness. We're about incarnating and articulating the actual new memes that need to be the source code of a new society. And those new memes are memes of identity. What's my identity? It's a narrative of identity based on the best information we have today. It's a universe story based on the best information we have today, right? It's a narrative of community based on the best information we have today. It's a narrative of desire. It's a narrative of power. Without these new narratives, no change will take place. The old neoliberal agenda won't do it. The old conservative agenda won't do it, neither in the United States nor around the world. The only thing that ever changes reality is a new story. And that's what Barbara and I understood together. It's what brought us together. And what brought us together was a particular understanding of the new story as we merged memes. The trajectory of history only changes when you change the source code, and the source code is the story of identity. Who am I? The universe story, where am I? And then what's there to do? Those three questions, where am I? What's there to do? Who am I? Those are the only three questions. If we change our responses to those questions based on a genuine structural re-understanding, a reimagining of human identity, we call that the movement from Homo sapien to Homo amor, the movement towards a new human and new humanity. When we do that, we can actually enact the change that will actually usher in a potential utopia of unimaginable gorgeousness, which every child knows their beauty, in which no one is dying alone in a hospital, right? In which every human being feels the gorgeousness and radiance of their being and the radiance of every human being with whom they hold hands. When we can actually feel beyond ourselves, we can actually feel the quality of the intimate universe living in us. So we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about so much more today. Right? Welcome, everyone. I want to go now and just introduce Barbara Marx Hubbard. Right? When I say introduce, I don't mean introduction. If ever the words "she needs no introduction" applied, they apply here. But I want us to just to feel her, to feel you, Barbara. Barbara, you said, throw me a party after I die, an evolutionary party. So this is the first instantiation of the party. It's on Zoom, and then we're going to throw it in person. I promise, absolute promise. But right now, we're actually connected, holding hands in the noosphere. We're going to talk a lot about holding hands today. We're going to talk a lot about breathing. So Barbara, the first thing we're going to do before we show this beautiful video in which we actually experience the morning that has broken, the gorgeous morning that has broken with your smile and with your laughter and with your gorgeous telling of the evolutionary story for 50 years. We're going to just hold hands together around the world. And holding hands is everything. Friends, holding hands is everything. Can we hold hands around the world? But let's just actually touch each other. Let's touch each other emotionally, and let's touch each other existentially, and let's touch each other spiritually, and let's feel each other. Can you feel each other? I can literally feel your hands. Can you feel my hands? We're holding hands. When you hold hands with ordinary love, right? It all cracks. The hands get a little clammy and you want to stop. When you hold hands with outrageous love, the initiating eros of all of reality, oh my God, let's just rest in holding hands, right? And let's breathe, friends. Let's breathe. Can we breathe? Can we breathe? Can you feel our hands? Let's breathe. Can we breathe together? Let's breathe for everyone who can't breathe in the world. Let's feel beyond ourselves. Let's know that our breath is everyone's breath. We said last week that when I breathe in at least one molecule from every breath that was ever taken in the history of cosmos. So let's breathe. Let's breathe in and breathe out with the trees, through photosynthesis, with each other. Let's breathe into every person, right, who's being intubated. Oh my God, you know what it means to be intubated, right? 4 out of 5 times it doesn't work for a COVID-19 patient, right? When a tube goes all the way down your trachea into your lungs in the last attempt, and the doctors do it valiantly, spraying the virus in the room at risk to their lives, right? So a person can catch a breath. Let's breathe, friends. Let's breathe 3 times. Let's laugh and let's cry and let's breathe 3 times together for every person who doesn't have breath. Barbara, we're breathing with you, love, and breathe with us from the worlds beyond and the worlds within. Breathing once. Breathing twice. Breathing 3 times. May all breath be clear and strong. May all obstacles to all breath be melted away. May we know that we are one world and we are one breath. And anyone who can't breathe, may they be resurrected on this day, which is Easter. This day, which is the day of resurrection, which is the day in which we breathe after we have lost our breath. It's the day of Passover, which is called Pesach in Hebrew. And Pesach means, says the great mystic, Pesach, the mouth that speaks, which is the mouth that breathes. So on this day of Passover, on this day of Easter, on this day of celebration, on this day in which we laugh out of one side of our mouth and cry out of the other side of our mouth, as we join hands and we feel each other's hands, may every breath be alive and singing the gorgeousness of what it means to be a baby-faced divine, homo amor in this world. And let's feel Barbara. Bring it on. Morning has broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the red garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Black like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
Right? Let's just shout our love to Barbara in the chat box. Anyone who wants to write, just love you, Barbara, right? Miss you, Barbara. You're with us, Barbara. Let's just explode that chat box and let's lift this to the sky and let's find Barbara in the continuity of consciousness and let her feel her. And the mystical truth is, as Barbara moves us, we move her. The more we allow ourselves to be moved by her, the more she impacts us, then the more alive is Barbara. The more alive is Barbara, the more she's then therefore dynamic and is able to move the next stage in her journey. So the more we let Barbara in, and this is the mystical truth of Tibetan Buddhism, of Kabbalah, of Kashmir Shaivism, the more we let Barbara in, the more she moves us, the more she's present, the more she's alive. When she's alive, that means she's active, and that activates Barbara-ness in the inner worlds, and then she's able to take her next step. So let's open up and let's pour Barbara into us, and then let Barbara's activation, right, explode the upper worlds and let the upper worlds and the lower worlds kiss. Nashke Araburakia in Aramaic. Let heaven and earth kiss in this moment and explode it all the way, all the way. Oh my God, thank you so much, right? Oh my God, thank you so much, right? Can you feel it? So do you remember a phrase, friends, that Barbara always used to say? You know, Barbara and I talked, I would say, I don't know, 3-4 times a day, virtually every day for years, the last 5 years before she passed. And whenever we were together, right, when Barbara wanted to talk about something, and any of you have ever taken a walk with Barbara, you know this is true, right? She would say, hold my hand. Remember that, everybody? Who remembers that? Tell me who remembers that in the chat box. She would say, hold my hand, right? Who remembers that, right? She'd say, hold my hand, right? Ken, right? Cornelia, right? Right, do you remember that? Right? Hold my hand. Do you remember that? That's what we'd always do, right? Hold my hand, right? Right? Oots, right? Should I hold my hand? Right? Let me tell you something. Hold my hand. So holding hands is everything. Holding hands is everything. And we're gonna look at something to contextualize where we are this week, which is beyond important, right? Hold my hand, right? So in the chat box, let's just explode the chat box if we can, if you're up for it. If you feel moved by it, if you don't. But if you feel moved, just write hold my hand. Can we just write hold my hand? Right, Barbara, hold my hand. Barbara, we're holding your hand. Can we write hold my hand? Hold my hand. Right, can you feel that? Right, hold my hand. Miss you, Barbara. Right, I miss hearing your voice saying hold my hand. Holding your hand, Barbara. Holding hands is everything, friends. Right, holding hands is everything. So we're gonna hear, and I'm gonna contextualize the means, this new story that Barbara and I were so committed and are so radically committed now. The promise will be kept to bring together. But before that, I want to just say a word and then look at actually one more video, which is really, really important. So I'm going to ask everyone to really practice in. Then right after that video, we're going to do a short look at like where we are, what is the new narrative, and then Barbara's going to talk. And then we're going to do prayer, right? We're going to resonate the code, and we're going to do a special, right, Corona short sermon. So there's a lot we have to do, and every word counts, okay? So stay close, okay? Stay close, all right? Stay really close. And think deeply for a second. Think deeply. As we stand poised between utopia and dystopia, we need good sense making. Without good sense making, none of it's going to work. We can't have fundamentalist sense making, and we can't have new age sense making, and we can't have bad evolutionary sense making. We need to bring together, right? Everyone get that? We need to bring together the best wisdom from pre-modern, modern, and postmodern, validated insight from the interior sciences and the exterior sciences, new original insight, and create a source code story. Source code means the deepest assumptions of society out of which we live, right? And we talked about 2 weeks ago, we can't live out of a success story. We can't live out of a narrow romantic story in which love is only romance between two people who happen to be human beings and it feels like infatuation. We can't live just out of a romantic story. We can't create reality out of a victim story. And we can't create reality out of a hero's journey, which is just my narrow story working with my wounds and trauma and turning them into triumph. Those 4 stories don't work. Those 4 stories based on a separate self, win-lose metrics, created the exponential growth curve that we're on. And whenever you create an exponential growth curve from 500 million to 7.5 billion people, and then we extract in 1 century all the resources that took the earth billions of years to create, and we ignore and collapse the ecosystems, right? And we ignore the structure of planet Earth, but most importantly, we ignore each other, right? Every person doesn't have innate value, but only value as a producer. And every person is actually fundamentally emptied of eros in this win-lose metrics. When we do that, we actually destroy reality, and we create all of the conditions, hear the sentence, all of the conditions that created this catastrophe. That's called catastrophic risk. So what we have to do is, we won't change the story just by new policy suggestions. It won't happen. We'll only change the story. We'll only change policy by changing the story. History, his story, her story. So that's what we came together to do. So I want to give you just a brief sense of it. Then we're going to look at a clip, and we're going to go to Barbara. Okay, then we're going to come together. We're going to resonate the code. We're going to pray. Then we're going to talk Corona. Okay? So are we ready to go, everybody? So here it is, really briefly. But we got to get this because it's the core, right, of the whole thing. It's the core of everything. Okay? So first we get that reality's moving. It's the most important thing. There's a spell of solidity. It all looks solid. Does everyone get that? That's why we think it can't break down. It all looks solid and clear. It's not. Reality's moving. It's going somewhere. That's the insight of evolution. The insight of evolution is that reality is going somewhere. That reality is not a fact. Someone write the next sentence in the chat box. Reality is not a fact. It's a story. Okay, 2 is we sense the inside of reality. And there's a nature to the story. What's the nature of the story? Right, it's a love story. Now this is really important. One of the major moves being made all over the world today that's pretty much believed by most of the world, even people who are in religions who profess not to believe it, right? This almost insidious kind of deconstruction has affected them as well. And the belief is that we live in an impartial universe. Does everyone get that sentence? The universe is impartial. The understanding suggested by Hawking and Weinberg, right? We're just wrong. They're great physicists, but physics is just an analysis of the it dimension of reality. Being a great physicist does not make you a good reader of interiors. It does not tell you the nature of reality. We've made our physicists our high priests. Why? Physics speaks to the it dimension of reality. And so the dogmatic claim has been made, having nothing to do with science, but it fills the halls of science and it fills our journalism and it fills an enormous amount of psychology, is the universe is impartial. And you live once and make that life as heroic and as noble as you can, and then it's over. Right? So that's precisely what, if you bring together the depths of the implications of the sciences, you bring together the depth of the interior sciences, we actually know that's not true. The universe is not impartial. The universe is partial. the universe tilts towards love. And love is not a social construction. Love is backed by the universe. But not only is love backed by the universe, love is the very nature of the universe, right? Love, eros, is the quality of reality. But by love, we don't mean ordinary love. And here language matters. We only change culture by laying down a field not of jargon, but a field of new language. And that language, logos. In the beginning, there was the word. So to create a new beginning, we need a new logos. But every word has to actually evoke something real and something potent, and has to be rooted and footnoted in deep sciences. So when we say reality is a love story, it means reality is not, it's not impartial. That view of reality, the impartial universe, is wrong. Just wrong, right? There's a dimension of the universe that is in witness, and that is unchanging. And then there's a dimension of the universe that's actually, its interior dimension is itself eros. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, pure being. Chit, consciousness. Ananda, love. The inside of being is consciousness, and the inside of consciousness is love. But it's not ordinary love. This is the field of language. It's outrageous love, or eros, or evolutionary love. Those words are all part of the same field of language. And eros means, now stay with me close, friends. Eros is the experience of radical aliveness, desiring ever greater intimacy and ever greater wholeness. Eros is the animating force of the self-organizing universe. Emil, and I owe you an email, Emil, and I'll get back to you. It's been a busy 3 weeks. Eros is not a fifth force of the universe. Eros is the self-organizing interior of reality itself. Eros drives reality. Outrageous love drives reality. Reality seeks more intimacy, right? And what is intimacy? Intimacy is the experience, everyone with us? Intimacy is the experience of shared identity. Shared identity means I can feel those people in the hospital. We're about to do a practice of intimacy when we look at this video clip, and we're going to hear from Barbara. But intimacy equals shared identity, and maybe someone can catch it in the chat box, okay? Intimacy equals, you with me? Right, we're together. Barbara and I worked on this so deeply, and we're going to put out a little article about it in a couple of weeks. Intimacy equals shared identity plus mutuality of recognition. We recognize each other. We actually recognize each other. And I'm not lost in my, I can actually recognize you. Plus mutuality of recognition, plus mutuality of pathos. We feel each other. Intimacy means I feel you and you feel me. Feel me feeling you. Feel you feeling me. Feel you feeling me feeling you. Feel me feeling you feeling me. Right? So we actually literally feel each other. You're hungry, I'm hungry. We go to the doctor together, right? And your foot hurts, so I say to the doctor, our foot hurts, right? Right? That's what it means. It means we literally feel each other. Wow. If your arm's cut off, my arm's cut off. We're one organism, we're one heart, we're one breath, we're one world, we're one love. So intimacy equals shared identity in the context of relative otherness. There's distinction, there's uniqueness, but we're part of the same field, plus mutuality of recognition, plus mutuality of pathos, plus mutuality of purpose. And now we have shared purpose. And now we can act together. The reason, have you noticed this is why Dharma matters so much. This is the source code of reality. Have you noticed the world can't act together? We're facing catastrophic risk, what we've called in these calls for years, the second shock of existence, the potential death of humanity. Catastrophic risk brings to bear, right, the specter of existential risk to our very existence. And have you noticed that no one can act together? The world's completely disorganized. The response to the United States is disorganized. The response around Europe, the response around in the East, everyone's doing different reactions, right? There's actually, in the world today, everyone needs masks. People are competing against each other in an insane open market competition for masks. In the United States, states are competing against the federal government. There's no system, there's no organization, there's no coherence, because coherence comes from intimacy. Do you get that? And intimacy comes from a shared story, right? So intimacy means, right? Intimacy means shared identity. We have shared identity. In the context of relative otherness, right? Independent countries, that's beautiful. But we have to have mutuality of recognition. We genuinely recognize each other. We have shared identity as human beings. There's a story that unites us that's so much greater than that which divides us. And from mutuality of recognition, we have mutuality of pathos. If you're in pain in Italy, I'm in pain in the United States, right? There's no difference, right? And that creates plus mutuality of purpose. Intimacy allows us to have mutuality of purpose. We can have concerted action, right? Now, what's the human being? The human being is a unique configuration of intimacy. Human being is a unique configuration of intimacy and desire. And every human being has a deepest heart's desire, which is an expression of the entire divine field. So who is a human being? A human being is a unique expression of intimacy and desire. That's what I am. And I'm part of the field of divine desire. And therefore, winning out the population or doing herd immunity or doing all the things that, people suspect might be done, right, in order to kind of allow the virus to rage because we have this overpopulation problem. Why would that be wrong? That'd be wrong because every human being is a unique self. Why are we fighting for every life? Because every human being is a unique self. Why do human beings matter? Not because of their job. Now, your job may be part of your unique self. It might not be. Human beings matter because every human being is a unique configuration of intimacy and desire, a unique configuration of value who has an irreducible gift to give. And the new structure of intimacy that we're inviting into reality, which is not a top-down governmental structure, although we need governments, but we need something deeper in concert with government. We need a self-organizing universe that is the progressive deepening of intimacies. We actually realize, right, that's the Dharma, we realize that the self-organizing universe is the evolution of intimacy, and the new structure of intimacy is a planetary awakening in love through unique self-symphony. That's what we stood for here, right? A year ago when Barbara passed, that's what we stand for now with ever greater audacity and the urgent need of the moment that Barbara and I talked about every day, right? Every day, the urgent need of the moment is the realization of this set of memes as the source code structure of reality. Right? Reality is the evolution of intimacy. We are each unique selves, but uniqueness is the currency of connection. Uniqueness doesn't create alienation, meaning through my uniqueness, I can hold hands with you. Did you get that? My hand is my uniqueness. Through my uniqueness, I hold hands with you, right? I plug into you and you plug into me. And then together, we address the unique needs in our unique circles of intimacy and influence, and we address them together. And we become this activated cosmos, this activated earth, this activated planetary awakening and love through unique self-symphonies. And we act out, we begin to act out, but what do we act out? We act out on our activated desire, because desire is sacred, and our deepest heart's desire. And how do we act out on our deepest heart's desire? By making it real in the world. And our deepest heart's desire is to commit the outrageous acts of love that are yours and yours alone to commit. So Barbara beloved, right? We're going to go look at a video which is of this day. And then we're going to pray. And then we're going to turn to you, Barbara, right? To speak of this day. Okay? I'm going to ask everyone today in honor. Barbara's with us all the way. Nothing left out. Right? Barbara, look with me at this video. And everyone, let's look at this video. And I'm going to ask you, it's a 6-minute video, which is a long time. And I know that usually when you put a 6-minute video on, people start signing off. Oh, we don't have time for this video. Everyone's busy. That's not what we are. If the Dharma means anything, let's be the unique self-symphony now, and let's give these people our attention and our honor for 6 minutes. Can we do that for 6 minutes? Let me just get a C in the chat box. Can we break the rules of the busy reality? Right? Everyone with us, okay? Everyone with us? Okay? Everyone with us? Can we do this like all the way? Right? And this is going to be about holding hands. About holding hands. Nicholas Kristof wrote in the New York Times yesterday. He writes, he went to the hospitals. He's a reporter. And he writes, the most impressive thing in the hospitals wasn't ventilators or CT scanners. It's the compassion and radical courage of health workers, right? The low tech, the hand holding. So I want to share with you a video, and just open your hearts so we can hold hands, so we can actually feel each other, so we can be intimate in the shared identity of mutuality of pathos, and from there create this new vision that we desperately need to create. So take us inside Nicholas Kristof, right? Holding hands right around the world. Yes.
Stretchers, row after row, comatose patients in isolation rooms, Every surface is dangerous, and so is the air, especially during an intubation.
Every day you're thinking, am I going to get really sick? Am I going to be able to recover? Am I going to be one of those young people that, for whatever reason, dies from this?
The history of this pandemic will be remembered not for briefings at the White House, but for the heartache in the hot zone. We journalists haven't been able to cover coronavirus the way we normally cover wars, from the front lines.
Good morning.
Good morning.
9, this is Kim.
But I was able to spend 2 days inside 2 hard-hit hospitals in the Bronx to witness the toll on frontline workers trying to keep Americans alive. So we're entering a COVID area, and so everybody who goes in wears these protective gowns, and this gentleman is helping me get it on correctly, since I don't know what I'm doing.
PE monitor.
Wait, they're pulling out another one. Wait. Find that patient now. We need the patient to go upstairs, please.
Dr. Deborah White reminds me of a general commanding a battlefield.
I mean, this is what we train for. This is the moment in our career, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
She's trying to save lives
Yeah, from upstairs.
while also keeping up morale. On this day, almost 800 New Yorkers died. Many of the people here are clearly in their 70s or 80s, but they're also, I'm struck that there are a lot of young and middle-aged adults here.
Yes, absolutely. We range from 26 all the way up to like 59.
She's constantly counting beds, keeping track of every patient.
So we're just rounding, want to know how you're feeling. And sometimes, that human interaction helps them. So the bus is here? Oh, so let's go upstairs quickly because the Me Too bus is here. Let's walk rapidly. Okay.
Dr. White has a problem. Too many patients, not enough beds. Unless they make room, more people will die. This is a medical evacuation bus to take people from this hospital to make some space here. The bus is unlike any bus you've ever seen. It has oxygen. It has EMT people there to support the patients as they make that ride. But as this bus frantically shuttles overflow to a nearby hospital, new patients continue to pour in.
Oh, that's great.
The red phone rings constantly, signaling the arrival of yet another critical patient. So many that there is a traffic jam of stretchers, leading to a small army of doctors and nurses. They are about to attempt a last desperate step, an intubation.
I need a vent. I need a vent.
I need a ventilator. Adam, there's nothing in there. So what we're going to do is intubate her right now to support her oxygen level so that we can improve the oxygen exchange.
This procedure spews virus into the air, leaving staff at enormous risk as they try to save the patient's life.
Okay. Take some deep breaths. You're okay.
She's attached to the vent.
While intubated, patients can't speak, and what everybody knows is that they probably will never speak again. Ventilators may be life-saving, but most patients still die. Death here has no dignity. Patients can't have visitors. They're scared. They can't even see their nurse's eyes. I've reported on lots of deaths in my career, and this feels particularly brutal.
Someone codes, someone dies, you go on to the next patient. Someone codes, someone dies, you go on to the next patient. And you don't have time to process those emotions until you get home. I have cried just at home thinking about it, or just when you get home you finally take a breather, and that's when you let it all out. Because you don't have time to process those emotions here.
These doctors and nurses are risking their lives, and we're failing them. Some told me of their deep frustration with the government's response. We catastrophically bungled testing. The president dithered Americans kept on partying. The result? Thousands of needless deaths.
I was in the intensive care unit. The second patient who came in who was tested positive was a 27-year-old. I'm 29 right now. I'm just as healthy as this patient. It just oftentimes feels like a roll of the dice.
I spent 12 hours by his bedside with all my PPE on. He would grab my hand and I just kept telling him that everything is going to be okay, that we were doing the best we could. But I could see the fear in his eyes, and it was heartbreaking because this is still so new to us. So we're just doing what we can, and we don't know what's going to happen.
As I see it, the triumph here lies in the courage and humanity of the health workers. This may not be enough to defeat the virus, but it's magnificent to witness.
Are we holding hands? Yeah. Wow. David, you ready? Are we holding hands, everyone? Who's holding hands? Right around the world, holding hands. Okay, David, resonate the code for us, brother. Okay? All right, this is the code, and give it to us with all your strength and all your energy.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. And I have an honor of actually taking on this responsibility from Barbara, who used to resonate the code, so I'm honored. This week's code: crisis is an evolutionary driver. Our crisis is a birth. Every crisis is a crisis of intimacy. The ultimate crisis is a global intimacy disorder. The only way to heal the global crisis is not a restoration of intimacy, but an evolution of intimacy. The emergence of homo amor, unique self symphony, evolutionary symphony. And I turn my word back to you, Dr. Mark.
Right. I mean, David, you feel that, right? When we were talking about this a year ago, 2 years ago, right? Every crisis is a crisis of intimacy. Crisis is an evolutionary driver, right? Can you feel it all coming alive now, everybody? Who can feel it? Who can feel it? Just in the chat box. Who can feel, right? This is what we've been talking about every week, right? We need a new story, right? And every crisis is a crisis of intimacy. I've got a New York Times article right here. I want to just share with you if I can find it here for a second. Where is it? Yeah, here it is, right? So the New York Times writes, right? And they're trying to write about where we're going. And they write, there's also a need for new ideas and the revival of older ideas about what the government owes the nation's citizens, what corporations owe employees, and what we owe each other. That's about as close as the New York Times can come, but they're trying. But you understand that you can't talk about what the government owes citizens or what a corporation owes employees, or the New York Times language, what we owe each other, unless we know, where are we? What's the nature of reality? Where are we going, right? Who am I, right? Who are you? Who are we to each other? You can't actually enact change. You can't alleviate suffering. You can't invite people to hold hands. You can't change the source code unless we actually download. And that's why the greatest urgent, categorical, moral, sacred, erotic imperative of this moment is to actually tell the new story. But the new story is not, you make it up. The new story is the best dharma, the best narrative of identity, backed by the best science, the best interior science. And we've got to produce it not as one book. We need to produce a great library that rises above the noise. Today, people can't distinguish between the signal and the noise. You can't find your way. So we need to actually generate in these years, the next 5 years, a great library, which is a great Da Vinci library, like we did in the Renaissance, because we're in this time between stories. We're in this time between worlds. The doctors and nurses are being wild heroes. Doctors are using pizza boxes for masks, and CNN is telling the story of the heroes. But friends, doctors shouldn't have to be heroes. What does it mean, for example, in the United States, ostensibly the most powerful country on earth, that we can't actually provide our doctors and nurses with masks, fucking masks, low-tech masks? What does that mean? That doctors are dying, that nurses are dying, that healthcare workers are dying. What does that mean? Right? What does it mean that there's no narrative of identity? So actually those who are disadvantaged, right, those who are from lower socioeconomic classes are dying twice as much as the privileged. But what does that mean? What's wrong with that? It's because there's no health care, right? It's because there's no child care, right? It's because 80% of the families in America, right, are actually desperate month to month. And we actually don't tell that story. We need a new story. It's only a new story that's going to change the source code, but it's not a fanciful story. It's not a conjecture, right? It's a genuine new story, right? An all the way new story. So let's just feel that new story. Barbara, beloved, right? Beloved, tell us the memes that we joined together. Hearing them through you is just the most beyond delight in the world, right? And how you, right? Let's hear your voice, right? With us in this moment, right? Alive, right? Well, in the continuity of consciousness.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for all these beautiful, beautiful prayers in the Evolutionary Church. And I want to share something that is so helpful to realize. How do you think this universe was formed? This is the most amazing story. It's true that evolution desires intimacy, but evolution creates intimacy. So just think for a moment of the origin of creation and cast our minds through the evolutionary spiral of this explosion. And out of that comes quarks, electrons, protons, neutrons, cells, multicells, animals, humans, and us. And what happens at every turn of the spiral is separate parts are brought together to create a greater whole, far greater than the sum of their parts. In other words, the self-organizing universe, the invisible process of creation, has the tendency, the capacity, the genius to connect particles together by what? Attraction, by desire. The universe is a love story. Our crisis is the birth of a greater and more complex species. So let's just imagine this attraction now. If the universe is self-organizing for 13.7 billion years, let's take it into the heart of our life right this second. The genius of the entire self-organizing universe has entered your heart. And what is it doing there? It is connecting separate particles together. All the parts of your desire, all the parts where you might feel undeplorable, all the people who you love that might be left out of your life or that might be hurt by you or you are hurt by them. Let us call upon the genius of the self-organizing universe right now to bring coherence into our hearts at this very moment. And it's so hard to imagine that the self-organizing universe that created ever more complex systems is now entering our life. So first of all, imagine your life when that self-organizing genius of the divine is connecting all your separate parts so you're becoming whole. And that wholeness of your being is the genius of yourself, with everybody and everything brought together by the genius of the self-organizing universe. Now, let's imagine the church being filled with the movement of the self-organizing universe, connecting every one of us with one another in an intimate union of love, creativity, and desire for the church itself to fulfill its members. That our very participation in this church now is evoking the self-organizing universe. If we put our hands on our hearts right now, and we are recalling in to connect you and me and us and the hundreds and hundreds of people who are with us. and the 9,000 that have registered for this church who are part of our collective, let's imagine and call on, and in our prayer, the self-organizing universe is evolving and connecting this church into the radiant presence of love that it is already when that universe within us is self-organizing us. Now, let's take another step beyond our church. Let's imagine the leaders of this world who are struggling with the nation states, who are struggling in the United Nations, who are struggling in these tremendously difficult climate change problems, all trying to remain in power while separated by competition and despair. And let's imagine for a moment the self-organizing universe that brought together the quarks, electrons, proton cells, and all of us for 13.7 billion years is surely not stopping now. So I'm imagining that the new wheel of co-creation, if you can imagine the spiral that goes into the wheel, and you see every sector of that wheel, health, education, economics, science, and technology, all of them there. Imagine now that we in this church are gathering together a first expression of the self-organizing universe of our culture in this church in the wheel of co-creation 2.0. It would be an enormous explosion of energy. And then, since we're in the realm of being one with the self-organizing universe and knowing what its truly greatest desire is, it's the planetary awakening in love through a unique self-symphony, through a unique jazz symphony, through everyone who is attracted and is desirous of doing all this by the same self-organizing universe power being attracted into our vision, our collective vision, humanity's vision of a coming together and a planetary awakening in love. So I would like to say that because we live at the crisis of the sixth mass extinction, because nature has brought us to this very point of devolution or conscious evolution, that this is the moment when it is possible for the yearning of greater intimacy to jump into a higher order. I mean, really following our code. Our crisis is a birth. Our intimacy is the desire of the universe to connect. God desires intimacy for billions of years, and God is in us desiring it now. So the self-organizing universe is working through each of our deepest heart's desire to heal the pain, to overcome the separation, and to say in this church, we have the purpose perhaps never brought quite like this together before on earth for a planetary awakening in love through our unique self-symphony. Thank you, and I turn my word to you, Mark.
Barbara, do we have an amen here? Amen means literally in Hebrew, I trust you. Amen means I'm holding hands. Do we have an amen here? I trust you. Amen. Barbara, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right? And does everyone feel what we did here? So we've been doing this together here for the last 3 years. We're going to take it now the next stage. Right? Barbara was telling the story of evolution, the evolutionary spiral. I was telling the story of desire and deepest heart's desire and the evolution of intimacy, right? And we brought those stories together. And we now have, right, we've been working on this, right, collectively for probably 70 years, right, between us. And we're all going to work on this together now. And Joyce, I owe you a phone call, and Jamie Long, I owe you a phone call. So thank you for writing and saying you could step in, and we're going to definitely turn to you. And anyone who can step into this revolution, right, this is the moment and this is the time. Now, I know exactly what time it is, right? I don't usually, but I do now. So we're now at, okay, 11:04 in California time, which means that we're 4 minutes over time. And what we're going to do is anyone who's got some urgent appointment in the park, who's got a dentist appointment or is going to a concert or has got to go, totally go. And we want to do something now for COVID-19. And we're trying to do this every week. We're trying to offer a new piece of sense making, So we're going to take a bunch of time, not a lot. We're going to do a new piece of sense making, and then we're going to pray. We're going to do hallelujah from the Italian balcony. We're going to pray, and then we're going to end with Barbara. Okay? So this is the last bite. We're going to do a minute, and it's a gorgeously, we're not skipping prayer. Okay? So all the way. Let's go all the way here, because we've got to do sense making. It's what, if you notice, and I want to ask and encourage anyone, there's a sense making video we did. And if someone could put it in the chat box, there's a 17,000 word sense making conversation that we just put out. Right, so if someone could put that in, maybe even in the chat box, that would be awesome, right? My dear friend, one of the great teachers of yogic philosophy, Sally Kempton, actually told me she just read it, and she said, which I really appreciate, she said there's nothing like it out there, right? And it's a merge of what Barbara and I and a lot of us have been talking about together, right? It emerges from all of us. It emerges not from Mark or Barbara, it emerges from the unique self symphony that is all of us together, that it's Kirsten and it's Joyce, right? And it's Tahali and it's David, right? And it's Shad and it's Dr. Kincaid and it's Claire, right? And it's Hans, right? And it's Suzette, right? We're doing this, and it's Terry and it's Tom. We're doing this together. It's Oriana. Without Oriana, nothing moves, okay? So here we go. So I want to say something difficult to start, okay? And I'm going to talk about this next week in depth, because we're going to do next week 1 week on sense making of conspiracy theories. Are conspiracy theories important? Are they valid? Right? Should we be, everyone on this call has heard lots of theories, right? Other than the virus started in the Wuhan market in China, right? Because of fundamental lack of sanitation and jump from animals to human beings. I believe that part of the story is correct, but there's all sorts of other stories happening out there. Are they valid or are they not valid? How do we look at them? It's enormously important, because our information ecologies are broken. And when our information ecologies are broken, there's a failure of intimacy. We can't talk to each other. We can't share information. We don't know what to trust. When there's no trust, there's no intimacy. So we're going to talk about that. That's next week's church, sense making on the information ecology. What can we trust, right, on conspiracy theories? I want to just begin this week, though, by referencing something, okay? And this is a bit trusting our government's an issue, Tina, absolutely. Who can we trust? Who can't we trust? But there's no easy bad people here, right? Yes, Trump has a huge history of lies, right? We know that, right? And there's no obvious Trump bad guy here. It's much more complex than that. We have to know. But there are bad actors in the story. And the bad actors are not the American people or the Chinese people. Chinese people are awesome and beautiful. But the Chinese Communist Party is a bad actor. And I need to say it clearly. It's one of the things that the liberal community is aware of. Barack Obama was deeply aware of it, but everyone's afraid to say it for lots of reasons. And part of it is the refusal by liberalism to actually recognize evil. The liberal communities actually backed Stalin for many, many years. And it was tragic, right? Russian communism was responsible for probably twice as many brutal deaths as the Nazis. Okay? This is a big deal, and I want you to get this, everybody. It's a very big deal, right? The Chinese Communist Party in this story, right, is evil, right? I'm going to talk about it more next week. Right? And evil is a failure of intimacy. And I'm not talking about the individual people. The individual people are acting evilly, but the Chinese Communist Party, right, has actually killed millions of people in China and is acting aggressively around the world. This is unbelievably important to understand. And one of the things that the United States has historically played a role in, funding NATO, funding the United Nations, has been to be a bulwark against communism. Now, were there tragedies in the Cold War? There were. Do we need to transcend the Cold War? We did. Was Gorbachev an awesome move forward? He was. Did my friend Michael Murphy do great citizen diplomacy, right, in Russia during the Cold War? He did. Are Russians beautiful? Of course. But that's not the point. The point is that there's actually groups that come together that coalesce around negative intimacy. They coalesce around a drive for dominating power. And the Chinese Communist Party, right, has acted not just in the COVID-19 story, right, which we'll talk about more in depth next week, but on any number of fronts in ways that can only be described as fundamental violations of intimacy, right? There's probably 1 to 3 million people in concentration camps in China right now, and it actually needs to be said, and it's being ignored for lots of reasons. These things need to be addressed, okay? And I'm going to actually talk about this now in a bigger context right now, because essentially what the Chinese Communist Party is doing is acting out of what's called ethnocentric interest. Ethnocentric. In the United States, we don't want the United States to imitate that. The United States should be a strong country. We should make America great, but America is great holding hands with every country in the world. Does everyone get that? Intimacy means that there's shared identity, right? There's shared identity in the context of relative otherness, meaning individual nation states are beautiful. Does everyone get that? Individual nation states are totally beautiful, right? It's not enough just to love everyone. Of course we love everyone, right? And Nazism needed to be stopped. And we need to actually recognize evil. So there actually is, and this is part of the sense making, there are bad actors in the story. And not recognizing it will assure another series of pandemics, okay? So, and what the Chinese Communist Party is doing is expressing the shadow of ethnocentric intimacy. I'm committed to my nation, the power of my nation, to my people, and anyone outside of my circle is an other to be dealt with as an instrument, as an it, not as a full equal human being. Right? So that's really important to understand, okay? So within that context, I want to now go deeper, because what we're going to say now is going to address this directly, but in a deeper and I think much more beautiful way. And this is something that is core to the new source code. It's core to the new world story. This is the evolutionary impulse alive. Okay, so everyone ready to jump in? Everyone ready? Give me a yes if you're ready. If you're ready, jump in. Who's ready? Because we're gonna completely take off now for about 10 minutes. We're ready to like total all the way. We jumping in? We good? Ready? Okay, so here we go. So, and let's be with this together. I was up till 3, 4 last night trying to think what's the most important thing to share with you today. So I hope this comes across clearly, and forgive me if anything is unclear. I'll do my best. Okay. Shame. What's shame? I want to talk about shame for a second. Every human being experiences some dimension of shame, right? Who's ever experienced shame? Maybe jot in the chat box. Who knows? Who has a relationship to shame? Okay, shame. Anyone, right? Shame. We know what shame is, right? We have a relationship to shame. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, and thank you everyone for staying. Everyone else? Right? Right? Shame. We know what shame is, right? And shame is the experience, not that I did something wrong, but that I'm bad. Right, that I can't be fixed, that I'm broken, right, in some fundamental way. Does everyone get that? So shame comes from 4 different places. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about one experience. When we're very young, in our early childhood, one of the great disclosures of modern science, the social sciences, is that the experience in our early childhood is everything. It's unbelievably important. We can transform it. We can change it. But we need to, when it was off, and it was off for all of us in some way, it needs to be transformed. It's not an accident of cosmos, that's the intention of cosmos. We all have early needs, and we have 2 fundamental early needs. One is for touch. It's a sexual need, but not sex in the sense of penetration, sexual intercourse, sex in the sense of touch. There's a primary need to be touched. And the drive for touch, what Alfred North Whitehead called prehension, the proto-drive for touch between atoms and molecules, right, is fundamental for cosmos. So that drive to touch, that proto-feeling, awakens in us when we're born, and we need to be held. We need to be touched. That's a fundamental drive. Okay, that's 1. And 2 is we need to be nourished. We need to eat, right? We need, right, to have our basic needs in terms of nourishment met. Does everyone get that? Those are our 2 fundamental needs. Now, we're all in some sense, that's the structure of cosmos, not an accident. We're all in some sense humiliated in getting our basic needs met. In the best family, it happens somewhat better, but in every family, there's some lack of attunement. because we're two different people. And the baby and the mother, the baby and the father can't be completely attuned. So there's always some gap in attunement. Now, since the universe is a love story, and mother and father are the child's, the baby's entire universe, so then when my basic needs are humiliated, I feel, oh my God, right? I feel shamed. I feel not deserving. I feel what Gurdjieff called the shock of existence, right? I'm devastated, right? So I'm devastated when I'm fundamentally humiliated, right, in getting my basic needs met. Does everyone get that? It's a big deal. So now let's stay with this. Let's stay super close and super deep here, okay? So how do you heal that? How do you heal that, everybody, okay? See if we can stay super close, okay? And we're going to get to governments, Peter Goodman, okay? But see if you can drop in, Peter, for a second and be with us and actually feel it with us together. And it'll come directly to governments, I promise. Okay, well, let's drop in and see if we can find this together. So where is the humiliation of basic needs healed? So we can heal it later in life in relationship with our beloveds. One of the places we heal it is in sexuality. Right? In sexuality, when it's healthy and beautiful and whole, when our desire is dignified, then we have the experience that our beloved says to us, stay close, our beloved says to us, your need is my allurement, right? Right? In other words, the experience we have of having our needs humiliated in early childhood, our need for touch, our need for nourishment, that can be transformed in sacred sexuality. And in sacred sexuality, and actually my need is the delight of my partner. My partner says to me, your need is my allurement. I'm delighted to touch you in that way or in that way. I'm delighted to nourish you. I'm delighted to hold you. So in that experience, when I actually experience my beloved saying to me, your need is my allurement, I actually experience the full dignity of my being. I experience the full gorgeousness of who I am, and then I can give that dignity to someone else. I can say to someone else, your need is my allurement. But of course, we don't only say it in sexing, right? As we know deeply in the Dharma we've talked about, and we're articulating deeply in our phenomenology of Eros and in the book Return to Eros that Christina and I talked about so often, and that Barbara stepped into, and Barbara's actually doing part of the phenomenology of Eros with us. She completed it before she passed, right? There's this deep sense, not just that in sexing, we say your need is my allurement, but we actually say your need is my allurement in many dimensions of life because the sexual models the erotic. Does everyone get that? The sexual models the erotic. Eros is 12 billion years before sex. So Eros means all the ways that we interact, all the ways we seek intimacy. So for example, when someone is actually willing to spend money on me, right, and do it generously because I have a need, so we experience your need as my allurement. Money is erotic. The word money, kesef in Hebrew, the original Hebrew, K-E-S-E-F, if someone can write in the chat box, kesef means yearning, and it means particularly erotic yearning, right? Money actually means erotic yearning. Like, wow. And Utz, see if you can stay with us, brother, right? See if you can drop in, right, and kind of stay with us, right? Let's stay with us all the way, okay? See if you can get this, and as we exchange, okay? See if we can stay with this. It's beautiful, it's deep. And this is it. This is how we change the source code. Are we in, guys? Okay. So money's also erotic. When someone's willing to spend money on me, whether it's my mother or my father or someone who's not in my family, right? We're all evolutionary family. We need a new notion of family. We need to resource each other. When actually the way I spend money, it is how I actually confer dignity, right? Right? There's a great mystical idea that the language we make love in and the language we count money in is our true language. Do you get that? Right? Wow. Okay. When someone loves me, so they actually reach out beyond themselves and they take the time to send me a text when they don't need to, right? And I actually feel them opening their heart and I feel them feeling me and feeling my pain and feeling my joy. That's the intimacy of shared identity and mutuality of pathos. Then we experience someone saying to us, your need is my allurement. Do you get that? So the sentence that heals the humiliation of basic needs is the sentence which says, your need is my allurement. I'm allured to give you your need, right? I'm allured, I'm delighted. I'm erotically aroused. By erotically, I don't mean here sexually. In the sexual, it works as well in the appropriate context, but I mean in Eros, right? I'm allured. I feel your need. I feel your joy. I feel your hunger. But I'm responsive to you. When I feel the universe personally addressing me, being responsive to me, and someone says to me, your need, can we get that sentence? Let's get that sentence. Your need is my allurement. That's how it happens. Now, friends, let's dive into this and let's go so deep now, okay? Let's go so deep now, okay? What we're now experiencing is this global moment of shame. There's this global moment of shame that we've been experiencing for 10, 20, 30 years, and now it's exploding, right, in COVID-19. And Joe Stiglitz, who won the Nobel Prize, right, talks about this a lot. He talks about the global public goods. What are global public goods? So I want to ask you guys a question, okay? Here's a good question. How many people in the world don't have safe drinking water? Anyone know? Right? Right, all the people arguing, right, about gender pronouns, right, on the web, who, by the way, don't bother to show up to vote, right? Which is why Bernie Sanders didn't make it as far as he could have and should have, because the younger generation is arguing about gender pronouns and not voting, right? And barely know the following fact. Here's a fact. This is what matters. Okay, here's what matters. How many people in the world don't have safe drinking water? You ready? About 2 billion. You notice no one wrote the answer? No one wrote the answer because nobody knew. About 2 billion people in the world here, right, don't have drinking water. But how many people in the world don't have some sense of either hunger or genuine food insecurity? I'm worried about the next meal, right? About 2 billion. Does everyone get that? How many people in the world don't have, right, basic sanitation, right? About 2 billion. Does everyone get that? Oh my God. Do you get that? I mean, what does that mean? Okay, so there's a fundamental, now remember, how many people in the world, now stay with me for a second, okay? How many people in the world, so that's about just nourishment, right? So about 2 billion people in the world. Now let's go to the United States, the richest country in the world, ostensibly, not actually true. But in the United States, we talked about earlier, and it's true in many countries around the world, in the Western democracies and in the non-Western, right, governments. Right? How many people are actually living paycheck to paycheck? Meaning if they lost their job, right, if we lost our job, they'd be vulnerable and not able to have enough money to pay the rent and have food. Right? About 80% of America. Do you get what that means? That's a fundamental humiliation. And I'm fundamentally humiliated. I can't meet my basic needs. I don't have a natural sense of my appropriate dignity and power. So there is 2 billion people on earth whose basic needs are humiliated. And of the people who are ostensibly part of the affluent, right, there's 60, 70, 80%, depending where, who are living paycheck to paycheck with no reserves, so that if they lose a job or some tragedy happens, right, in the United States today, we have a thing called medical bankruptcy, which is people who basically run into medical bills and go bankrupt because there's no health care. We haven't created what Joe Stiglitz called universal public goods. Universal public goods means not the International Monetary Fund, which is operated in horrific ways, right, for very, very narrow economic interests. But actually, we need a global well-being fund. We need a global healthcare plan. We haven't put in place one global system. Right? And so the world experiences shame. Let's talk about sexuality. It's not just the issue of sexual abuse, which is of course huge. And in huge, particularly, United States is a relatively minor issue, right? Let's talk about around the world, the ways that women are abused in India, right? The ways that, right, women are abused all over the world, right? In much, much more horrific ways. And that's really where American feminism needs to stand up for women around the world. But it's not just that. It's deeper, right? Most people in the world, right, I would say about half of the people in the world, roughly, don't actually have the privacy to do sexuality the way they'd like to, right? They live in too close quarters, right? The kids are around, there's paper thin walls, right? Seems like nothing, but the dignities that we assume that we, the privileged on this phone call, have in enacting our sexuality are not available to about half the world. So actually, even fulfilling the beautiful dignity of desire is hugely difficult, right? For about half the world, at least, the very least, right? So there's a fundamental humiliation on a global level of basic needs. Does everyone get that? There's a humiliation of our basic need for nourishment. And there's a humiliation of our basic need for touch. And we don't even know how to touch each other in the places in which there is, right, a genuine arena to fulfill desire, We don't have a sexual ethic. We don't have a sexual ethos. We don't have a narrative desire. We split off feminine desire and we demonize masculine desire. So actually, internationally, globally, there's a fundamental shame. The planet is drenched in shame. There's a fundamental humiliation of basic needs, not only on a personal level, but on a collective level. And so we need, right, to offer a new story. But that new story is a story which is the best narrative of identity and universe that can activate a new identity and activate a new statement. And what's the new statement? The new statement is, on a global level, we say to each other, ready? Everyone knows the next sentence, right? Your need is my allurement. Your need is my allurement, right? Animals in Wuhan, China, your need is my allurement, right? Split off indigenous populations, your need is my allurement, right? People living month to month, right? Brokenhearted, right? Because of the humiliation of basic needs, your need is my allurement. 2 billion people without safe drinking water, your need is my allurement, right? 2 billion people, right, who have fundamental food insecurity, your need is my allurement. 2 billion people who don't have basic sanitation, which is the cause of pandemics, right? Your need is my allurement. Right? All the people in the world who don't have health care, right, who therefore can't get surgery when they need to if they have cancer, right? Because they don't have health care. You know how many people in the United States fit into that? Or in other healthcare systems, right? The long lines, right? Your need is my allurement. Oh my God, your need is my allurement. I can feel you feeling me, feel me feeling you. It's one breath. If you can't breathe, I can't breathe. And I saw earlier today something that said it's not a pandemic, it's a paradigm shift. No, it's a pandemic. You can only say it's not a pandemic, it's a paradigm shift when you can breathe, and then you get to think about the paradigm shift. Yes, we need a paradigm shift. Yes, we need new narratives, but it's a pandemic. So I don't want to fail intimacy by actually speaking out of the intimacy of you're not breathing, because we're one breath and we're one love and we're one heart, right? And we're one world. And we have to articulate the memory of the future together. We need to have an office for the future, right? And that's what Barbara, right, talked about for so many years. And we're actually going to ground in the next few weeks the first office for the future, right? Oh my God, right? The first office for the future in which we actually are drawn by the future, right, to enact this fundamental imperative. The imperative is your need. Right? Your need is my allurement. Can you feel that? Your need is my allurement. Now, what happens in COVID-19? So in COVID-19, all of this fundamental failure of intimacy, because COVID-19 was brought about, the fact pattern of COVID-19 was brought about by failures of intimacy. And however you tell the story, however you interpret it, at the core, whether it's slaughtered animals cruelly in Wuhan, China, whether it's poor people eating from unsanitary conditions, or whether it's bioweapons that intentionally or accidentally leaked, right? What are bioweapons if not a violation of intimacy, right? So there's a fundamental violation of intimacy. What is the Chinese Communist Party, which actually doesn't recognize that it's one love, and it's one heart, and it's one world, and it's one breath, which actually acts to kill millions of their own citizens, right? Tiananmen Square was but the tip of the iceberg. And what does it mean when we fail to call that evil? We fail to call it out, right? And to name it for what it is, and then to challenge it in the best and most beautiful and most stunning and most powerful way that we can, right? Wow, that's evil. That's a failure of intimacy. Evil is always a failure of intimacy. Evil always means, right, I can't feel you. You're not just separate from me. You're not just unique and beautiful. You're unique and beautiful, but I can't feel your uniqueness. I can't feel your beauty. I can't feel your gift. I can't feel your hurt. I can't feel your pain. I can't feel your sorrow. I can't feel your heartbreak, right? That's the fundamental violation of intimacy, right? So just track with me for a second. We're going one last step. Okay, you ready? So at the first level, your need is my allurement. We can do that by reaching out to the people in our own egocentric circle, right? Who actually we've split off. Could be a friend, could be a beloved. I can no longer feel his needs or her needs, right? It could be a partner, right? It could be a colleague. Who have we taken out of our circle? Who can't we feel your need is my allurement, right? What part of ourselves have we split off? We actually don't feel our own deepest crying need. And our own deepest crying need is to identify our deepest heart's desire and to know that there's outrageous acts of love that are mine to commit and mine alone. And as long as I'm not committing them, I'm not asking my deepest heart's desire, and I'm not addressing my deepest need for my life to be a triumph and for my life to be significant, right? So in the egocentric circle, and I mean egocentric in the most beautiful way, myself, my split off needs, I got to be allured to my own deepest needs. I got to be allured to those in my inner circle of my survive, thrive circle. That's egocentric intimacy. It's gorgeous. Your need is my allurement. Then we got to go better. We got to actually reach out and we got to really embrace our country. And China should embrace China, and America should make America great again, and Belgium should be great, right? And Great Britain should be great. Nation states are beautiful, but they've got to be healthy nation states. And I can actually say yes, and I'm going to take care of China. I'm going to take care of my family and my religion, right? In my country, that's beautiful. Egocentric intimacy is gorgeous and beautiful, and to have a sense of patriotism for my country, right, is gorgeous, as long as I understand that that's not the end. Right? Egocentric intimacy, beautiful, healthy nation states. But then I've got to go from there to the next stage. I can't pathologize and arrest my development at egocentric intimacy or at ethnocentric intimacy. I've got to actually transcend and include the egocentric intimacy, transcend and include my ethnocentric intimacy, my sense of your need is my allurement for all my countrymen, for the people next to me, for my fellow Americans, my fellow Belgians, my fellow Chinese, my fellow, right, Singaporeans. It's a beautiful expression of intimacy. But then we jump. And then we realize, no, actually we got to go from there to world-centric intimacy. I'm one with China. I'm one with Singapore. I'm one with Asia. I'm one with Malaysia. I'm one with Holland. I'm one with Belgium. I'm one with Africa. I'm one with South Africa. And I'm one with, right, with every country in the world. Right? Every country in the world is shared identity in the context of relative otherness. There's relative otherness. There's the unique self of a nation. That's beautiful. But uniqueness is part of the larger field of desire, the larger field of intimacy, world-centric intimacy. I am the world, right? Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, 1985, Live Aid concert. I am the world. Right? If you're hungry, I'm hungry. Right? Feel me feeling you. Your need, every hungry human being in the world, your need is my allurement. That's the move that begins to be from Homo sapien to Homo amor. That's a narrative of identity. Right, from which a politics of evolutionary love emerges. Right, that's a narrative of allurement. It's a narrative of desire. And then we got to jump from there. That's not enough either. We got to jump to cosmocentric intimacy. Not just every human being on the planet, but actually every human being on the planet is a unique emergent of the entire system. Every human being on the planet is dependent on the microbes in the soil. Every human being is dependent on the healthy set of viruses that are in a healthy way, right, animating our whole universe. Every human being is dependent on the coral reef. Every human being is dependent on the breathing, the lungs of the planet that breathe in and out. Every human being is dependent on particular grasshoppers and insects. Right? No human being lives independently of everything. I am an expression of everything. I don't exist without everything. I am nothing without everything. There is no I am without everything. And enlightenment is sanity. And sanity means that no one and nothing is left out of the circle. The Chinese are not left out of the circle. The Americans aren't, and the microbes aren't. Right? And the animals in the wet markets in Wuhan, China aren't. And the animals in the factory farms in America that are fattened cruelly for slaughter aren't. No one is. Nothing's left out of the circle. Right? Your need is my allurement applies to all of life. Right? We don't preserve the ecosystem only because it serves human beings. We preserve the ecosystem because we're madly in love with the ecosystem. We take care of animals because we're madly in love with animals, right? Christina has, right, a beautiful dog named Buddy, right? You don't preserve Buddy because Buddy helps you, because Christina's madly in love with Buddy, right? Buddy's a living, thriving being, and Buddy's not just a dog, Buddy's Buddy. Animals actually have unique self. They don't have the same consciousness of unique self as human beings, because animals don't have the same consciousness as human beings. It's a different consciousness. It's why animals don't generally write Shakespeare. It's why you generally don't date dogs. Right? You don't date cats, right? Generally, you don't marry, right, a rhinoceros, even though they're beautiful. But animals do have, at their level, unique self. There's not just Daisy the cow. So cosmocentric intimacy means, right, means I am evolution. Does everyone get that? I am evolution. Does everyone get that? Everyone get that all the way? I am evolution. That's what I am. I am evolution. I want to write just and see what, I was talking about Christina's dog, and she just wrote me something. We've got to find out if it's important. Okay, right? Oh my God, right? Buddy, she said, Buddy's loving you madly. Oh my God. So that's cosmocentric intimacy. You with me? Cosmocentric intimacy means I am evolution. I am evolution. And that's what Barbara Marx Hubbard stood for. right? That's what Barbara Marx Hubbard stood for. The clip about her was gorgeous, and thank you to Lisa Engels for making that beautiful clip, right? The clip is gorgeous. But who Barbara is, so if you want to now, right, light Barbara up, if you want to feel Barbara Marx Hubbard in this moment, there's only one way to do it, right? Barbara Marx Hubbard believed in one sentence and one sentence only. It's the sentence I share with her with all my heart and soul. I am evolution, right? I am evolution, right? I am evolution, right? And let's add the next sentence. And this is the sentence. Barbara came in and said, I am evolution. And I changed the sentence and we changed it together. What's the next sentence? I am evolutionary love, right? I am outrageous love, whichever one you want. I am evolutionary love, right? I am outrageous love. That's who I am, right? I want to be lived as love, right? And I actually am, ready? Let's take the next step, right? Let's take the next step. And I am desire, right? I am desire. Can you take the next step? I am desire. I am desire, and my deepest heart's desire is the evolutionary impulse pulsing in me, right? It is alive and awake. And your desire is my desire, and your need is my allurement, right? And that is cosmocentric intimacy. That's I am evolution, right? It's only, and I want to say this right now, let's be all of us together revolutionaries, right? Because we all have to be prophets and we all have to be evolutionaries. We're past the stage of one prophet. We're going to do prophecy together. But by prophecy, I don't mean woo-woo. I don't mean new age. I mean prophet in the sense of that we want to be prophets together. We want to speak the memory of the future. That's what the prophet does. The prophet's an evolutionary. The prophet brings in the future, right? We talk about often in the world, I am that I am. And people cite the Bible, but the Bible doesn't say I am that I am. The evolutionary text of Exodus says, I will be what I will be. I will become what I will become. It's in my becoming that I actually become evolution. Does everyone get that? Right? Reality needs my service. And I want to say this clearly. I want to say it so humbly. And I want to say this for you, Barbara, because this is what you believe in. It's what we believe in. It's where we held hands so many times. It's where we joined Genius, and we're all joining Genius together, right? It's these source code structure ideas that need to be known by every child in the world. Every child needs to know, wow, there's an evolution of love. There's an evolution of intimacy. Intimacy evolves from egocentric intimacy, right, to ethnocentric intimacy. Yes, Chinese Communist Party, China's awesome, but then you gotta evolve, right? You gotta transcend and include, yes, China, and then world-centric intimacy. We're holding hands. It's one world, it's one love, it's one heart. You can't dominate the world anymore. The world will destroy you. Not because America will attack you. The world itself won't tolerate that level of consciousness. And we need to invite the China, right, to step into its greatness. We want to feel the confession of greatness of Chinese culture, right? We want to be blown away by Chinese art and Chinese literature and Chinese science. We want to feel the goodness of Chinese power. But China, you've got to rise up. China, you've got to rise up against a communist party that's actually perpetrating evil, right? And that's not okay. And evil is a failure of intimacy, and the failure to call out evil is a failure of intimacy. We've got to move beyond ethnocentric intimacy, right, to world-centric intimacy, and then to cosmocentric intimacy. And we need this language of the evolution of intimacy. And we need to understand that who I am is I'm a unique configuration of intimacy. Okay, now then it begins to happen. Then we begin to breathe. Then we can hold hands, right? Does everyone feel that? Like, wow. Like, wow. Okay, wow. Like, can you feel that with me? Well, I can feel it with you. We're going to go and we're going to pray. We're going to finish with prayer and with Barbara. And we're just about done. But I want to read you, and Kirsten Zohar, I sent this to you last night, and I don't know if you saw it, and we're going to talk about it again next week, so hopefully we'll get it then in German. But this is from Rilke, from the great Rilke, this great German thinker, right? And Kirsten, if you happen to have it, tell me in the chat box, and we'll turn to you and you'll read it for us in German, but if not, we'll do it again next week. So Rilke, right? I want you to hear this. It's the most gorgeous 4 lines you've ever heard, okay? So it's like this. Rilke says, all becoming has needed me. You get that? All becoming has needed me. That's I am evolution. And if there's being, I am. Then there's becoming, the pulse of evolution, the dynamic heartthrob of the evolutionary impulse alive in me. That's becoming. All becoming has needed me. Now listen to this next line. My look ripens things. You got that? Is that awesome? Right? My look, right? Kirsten says, I didn't send it to you. I meant to send it to you, KZ. So we're going to do it again next week. We're going to go deeper. And I thought that I did. Maybe it didn't go out of my outbox. Okay, so stay with me, okay? Right? My look ripens things. Right? My look ripens things. It used to be, and Kirsten, if you can find it right now, right, in the next 3 minutes, you'll read this at the end. And if not, I'm going to do this again next week because it's part of our next week conspiracy theory conversation. But hear this, okay? All becoming has needed me. My look ripens things. All becoming has needed me. My look ripens things. So we used to think that you needed to be seen by God. And God was outside of the world only. And when you were seen by God, God saw that it was good. The beginning of the book of Genesis. Vayalohim, and God saw. What Rilke understands is that the human being becomes divine. The human being realizes their divinity. It's not that there's no God. God is holding all of cosmos in every second. The God you don't believe in doesn't exist. God is the intimate quality of cosmos that holds us and lives in us at the same time. The first person, second person of the divine. So hear this deeply, right? All becoming has needed me. My look ripens things. Right? And what Rilke understood is that the quality of beholding, when I behold something and I take it into myself, when I take into myself what I behold, the quality of taking into oneself what one beholds is the central task of our being, right? So I'm looking, right? My look ripens things and they come towards me to meet and be met. And everything I look at comes towards me to meet and be met. I'm intimate with all of reality. My look ripens things. So I'm going to read it to you one last time. And if someone can write it, it'd be awesome. All becoming has needed me. My look ripens things. And those things, they come towards me to meet and be met. Right? That's my holy and broken hallelujah. That's everything that comes towards me. Right? Can you feel that? I'd actually become God's partner. I don't replace God. I'm holding hands with God. Can everyone feel that? We're holding hands with the divine. We're literally co-creators with divinity. Wow. And because we're co-creators with divinity, we better get good at it. We can only get good at it if we have a new source code. If we actually change the deepest assumptions of our identity, out of which we activate the new human and the new humanity. So friends, those of you who are still with us, we're at the very end. We're going to pray. We're going to pray now. We're going to go. We're going to hear hallelujah like we do every week. And if you need to go, it's totally fine to go. But we're finishing the next 5 minutes, right? We're in these special times and they're not regular times. And so we're giving it all we got. And we're doing this sense code, right? This sense making for all of reality. Can everyone feel it? We're doing sense making for all of reality. Okay? Jackie Ambrose, your cat won't let you type. We love your cat. You ready, everyone? So we're going to go to the Italian balcony. We're going to hold hands with that gorgeous person singing there. And we're going to hear the holy and the broken hallelujah.
Sai che poi la musica non conta, passando per un fa non so, la tonica, l'armonica, il repentito scrisse alleluia, 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 alleluia.
pray. Anything we got. Anything we got. We're just going to do it in 1 minute. Offer any prayer. Right? My prayer to do my part for the fulfillment of cosmic purpose for all that is. Hallelujah. Anyone else? Any other prayers? I pray right, to everyone feel held. I pray for Case and Navanita, who I just wrote yesterday. Thank you, Shati. Lynn, David, I pray to give my greatest gifts for the healing transformation of the world. Christina, I pray for the new story to go viral. Right, Lynn, I pray that outrageous love, peace, coherence, and common sense prevail in our beautiful world. Michael Nash, I pray for the world. Krista, I pray that China rises up in its true power. Right, most I pray the truth emerges. Oots, I pray for more strength. Amen, Oots. Right, Susan, do it to all panelists and attendees, Susan, so we can all see you and feel you. Right, we are the power of love. One love, says Jackie. Right, Tina, welcome. I pray for my family and the whole world. Marianne, for no one's outside of the circle. Nathan, I pray to have our basic needs met and then some, everybody. Oriana, I pray for the world. Oriana, I love you. The world feeling held in outrageous love. Martin, I pray for the world. Linda, transformation for union, this day of transformation celebration, this day of Easter, this day of resurrection, this day in which we know that we actually live beyond death. Does everyone notice? Everyone's talking about dying, but no one's talking about death. Death is not the end of the story. Death is a night between 2 days. And we know that. We know that in our inner certainty, and we'll talk about that more, right? Veronica, but not this week. Veronica, I prayed fear be overcome by love. Melinda, may the blessings be. Kat, may our all relations pause for life to thrive in joy and peace. Krista, for all of us to share these clips with everyone we know. Yes, let's share this every place. Praying for Hans to heal fully. Kimberly, I pray for all who feel left out of the circle in any way. Kimberly, Exochiti, I need my deepest heart's desire and live their new story fully. I pray we evolve Sherry into one. Kirsten, praying for all of us to be outrageous love, right? Yes, Adele, I pray for planetary becoming to reflect evolutionary love. May the universe rain love in the entire world. Tina, Inika, Paul, Paul says, I pray for sanity, right, in the heads of distorted leaders. Priscilla, what a healing tonic. My prayer is ease for all pain, shame, confusion, and illusion. Suzette, I pray that the message is heard in everyone's heart. Santan, we are one. Right, Claire, praying to be the evolution of love through all my actions. Paul Bennett, Carol, unique self-relationships, beloved. We yearn for the new story of reality. Alex, my friend Austin, Kathy. Right, Bengtson, I pray for our evolutionary love to be heard by all. Krista, show us where to write our outrageous acts of love. Show us what's written this week. Show us how to join to be part of the Unique Self Symphony.
Yes, thank you, Mark. This is where we come together,
right.
outrageous lovers, and we commit our outrageous acts of love. First of all, we meet every week on Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, to write outrageous love letters together and to dive deeper into this practice of writing together with Christina Amlong and Christina Kincaid. And you are so welcome to join us there. And we also share all of our outrageous love on our beautiful Facebook page. And thank you all so much for sharing all of your stories. It is such a blessing to see our Unique Self Symphony coming together here. For example, we have Mariana. She shared that she is generating employment for a couple so they can sustain themselves. There's beautiful videos of Laura sharing her art. And we have Joy sharing her outrageous love letter. We have David sharing about the refugees, beautiful poetry. And Colleen shared that Lady Gaga has raised $35 million. So it's all beautiful, inspiring stories right here. So please do come and check it out. And also share your own story by clicking here on the community tab. You can post your own stories. You can post stories of outrageous acts of love that you have committed or that you read or heard about, or share your outrageous love letter. And also, if you come here, please do click on the home page, because this is where the admins can only post. And make sure that you like every post and you comment on the post, so we encourage each other to be outrageous lovers and show up in this world together. All of this is available for you totally for free. And I do want to invite you to help us to share this message as we have shared before. Share the message, share the clips with your friends. But if you want to come even closer, we really do need your help. All of us here are volunteers, and all of the funding that we receive goes directly into sharing this message into the world. So please, if you are able, help us by making either a one-time donation. You can do that by going to our website. It will be shared right now in the chat box. The website is onechurch.world, and click on membership above, and you will find the link here where you can make a one-time donation. We really appreciate your help. We are all so needed. If you want to step in even more, you can also choose to become a member by making a monthly donation. And if you do, you will gain access to these 9 beautiful courses, all of them hours and hours of receiving this Dharma of outrageous love and Eros and everything that Mark shares about, and also receiving the practices that you can do yourself to integrate this Dharma into your day-to-day life. And we are still studying together, Awakening Your Unique Self course. We meet every Tuesday discussing together and learning from each other. So if you decide to become a member, you will receive an email where you gain access to the courses, and you will also gain access to our Facebook group, One Church Members Facebook group, and that's where all the information will be. I will post another post there.
Totally. And Krista, just with your permission, just one sentence. It's
Yes.
really important. You know, you and I texted earlier today. Why do we need a one church at all? Right? Why don't we just do the kind of new age thing? And it's not going to work. We need to reclaim the energy of church, synagogue, mosque, integrate it with the alternative spirituality. And part of that's to be committed. And being committed is become a member. Right? With everything going on, there's no one who can't do $25 a month. That's what Barbara would say, and she would say it much more fiercely than I did. She always talked about membership, right? My money is my yearning. My money is my eros. Does everyone get that? Right? If I don't step up and do my $25 a month, it means there's no eros in it. There's no, right? And Barbara said this again much more fiercely than I did, and so beautifully. But step in, be part of it, become a member, right? So that then we can actually make it happen more. Right? The power of the church is, right? People actually join, they're committed. They often don't even know why they're committed, right? It's an old model. We need to create a new vision of church. It's one church, it's many paths, it's one mountain. But we actually need to actually learn, right? And do it that way, right? And Krista, I just so want to just appreciate you, right? For just stepping in, right? And struggling with this, right? And finding your way, right? And feeling into your energy and your power that's going to unfold here beautifully. Right, so just thanking you, thanking David beautifully, thanking Christina Amelon, thanking Suzette, right, thanking Kirsten Zohar together with Christina Amelon, our executive producer. Like, oh my God, okay, everybody. So like, oh my God. So let's just, we're gonna end right now, right? We're gonna end right now, right? We're gonna just hear. You know what we'll do? Here's what we'll do, guys. I think we're gonna actually. We heard the Barbara clip in the beginning, and it was beyond gorgeous. Let's actually just see each other at the end. Okay, let's just see each other. Let's see each other. Can we do that? Let's just see each other. Can we just see each other? Is that possible, everybody? Whoever's around, if we can just bring people on and just see each other and say goodbye and wish everyone the most gorgeous, right, the most gorgeous week. And we'll just bring people on one at a time, whoever we can, just a few people, okay? That's totally good. Let's just see some people and just say hello, right, and just love each other madly beyond.